Hello and welcome back to the HH Gaming podcast brought to you by Hellhades.com. Once again, I'm joined by co-host of the show, Paul, or Saphira. And today, I guess we're going to be talking about some of the updates that have just come into the game. We've just had the season
Forge Pass
2 of Battle Pass slash Forge Pass. And the Fusion event, which is going on,
Yes.
which is quite exciting, to be honest.
Gaius the Gleeful, which we're now
Yeah.
going to call for the rest of the podcast Gaius the Great because it just feels better.
Well, I think it feels appropriate based on looking at some of his abilities. And I know there's a lot of skepticism about the fact that he's a bomb champion, but he's got a kit which is particularly interesting when it comes to bombs, which makes him fairly unique. I don't think, he's necessarily in the same leagues of a champion like Brogni, but as far as a fusion goes and a fragment fusion, which is fairly achievable, to most people as long as you've got resources, definitely seems like a character that's worth adding to your roster.
Well, we're going to look at it from the perspective of whenever we look at new fusion champions, we're always looking at, okay, not just what the champion does, but what does he bring to an account? What does he bring to the game? Does he fill in any gaps? So like when Ruel came out, for example, it was very much, okay, Ruel makes sense. Dia needs Hex to do damage. Ruel gives Hex to everyone. Great. Like there's a pairing. He also does insane damage. Right? But when we looked at it, we were like, right, okay, that makes sense because he brings something. Right now, there's a gap in the game.
Yep.
And I feel like some of the fusions we've had in the past couple of rotations have been a bit like, they don't really fill a gap. They're okay. They're good at what they do.
They're almost gap fillers in terms of content.
Yeah,
it's just
I think the last
they're put
one's
out
been very
something
much
to do.
Like very much progress champions. Like Apardin is a great healer, and he's pretty good at what he does. And there's not that many good healers in the game, but he doesn't do it enough that you go, oh my god, that's mental. Mm-hmm. Nari the Lucky, for example, is a pretty good buff stealer. He's a bit like Scartosis in that sense, who is the other one I would say is a pretty good buff stealer. But he doesn't really do it. But if you put him in a progression setting, they're really good, right? Apardin's going to carry your teams through dungeons if you're struggling. Nari the Lucky is going to help bring those stat weightings down for you so you can get through the content a bit easier, right? So that makes sense. I think this one is the first one we've had this year. I would say if we forget Tatura's last year, we put it, sure. 2021, that actually fills a void because currently there is, I think, 16 effects. And what I mean by effects is actually abilities that create bombs. So out of 670 or 600 plus champions, we have 16 effects that create bombs. And the majority of them are not very good bombs.
No.
For anyone who doesn't know, a bomb multiplier is 5 times, but most champions lower that multiplier down to something within their kit. So Lord Shazar goes from a 5 to a 3.2, which makes it a lot worse, right? Everyone knows the higher the multiplier, the better the damage, especially for bombs where they're so heavily dependent on their multiplier to do damage because they can't do crit damage, they can't do anything else, right? This champion is probably one of the better bomb champions. He also is one of few champions that can do bombs. So from that point alone, I think he's pretty good, right? He fills a gap.
And we know that Polarium wants something to work with bombs.
It's a dream, isn't it?
It is, but they've put so much effort, and they had the Bommel coming into the game where everyone thought that bombs were going to play like an incredible part in that, and then it didn't quite plan out the way that it did. And
that point is a good point, and I think this is where I was saying before, like Bommel working with bombs is a good idea. The problem is you just don't have enough bomb champions.
Yeah,
you put the stat weightings and damage so high, and then you say bomb champions need attack, that you end up in the situation where it's, well, okay, in 9 times out of 10 situation, I need to bring a bomb. Fine.
Yep.
But then I start excluding champions because either they're rare, so their base stats are too poor, or their multipliers are too low, so they actually can't get the job done, or they're just too squishy.
I think squishy was something that we definitely brought up in the past.
Yeah.
That bomb champions just tend to be squishy, and the way that you build them is if they scale off their attack, you have to build them squishy to get the best output out of them.
And you also need the accuracy.
Yeah,
unless you do an astrolith.
And this guy kind of counters that, I guess, with his passive. Because yes, he's squishy, but actually, if he does die, there's an effect from it.
Yes.
So
I think the most interesting part of this Champions kit is his passive, not his A2, which will surprise probably a lot of people who are probably thinking, well, his A2 gives him bombs. Actually, it's his passive that is the most interesting to me, because the passive allows you to play with him a bit more, right? So you could build him actually as quite a tanky bomb champion. It would have been nice if we could have booked the passive up to like 50%, right? Get a bit more chance.
because it's not bookable, is it? And it's only a 30%.
So you got basically 1 in 3 attacks he takes, he'll land a bomb on average. You know, obviously it's not how probability works. Don't kill me, math purists, on that. But roughly 1 in 3 attacks.
In the chat already typing away.
You can see him just like, that's not how you do probability. Have I taught you nothing?
Yeah.
But I think you could probably potentially build him like a stone skin, like 2-turn really, really slow, and see if you can just keep ramping up the bombs. Okay, you know, you need attack percentage to make the bombs do damage, right? But potentially that's a way you could build him, knowing that eventually when he dies, all those bombs are going to detonate. It's really difficult if we're talking on an arena setting, it's really difficult to figure out how he's going to work when you have so many dominant cleansers in the game.
Yeah.
You've got Raglan, you've got Wither the Crowned, you've got a Pardon that could do it if you want to run him. You've got Mithrala right now showing a big presence. You know, these champions, if they get a turn and you haven't controlled them, they're just going to cleanse those bombs away. And that's the big problem with bombs. In essence, it's a debuff. So if it's a debuff that can be cleansed, it's one you can't rely on. And if you can't rely on it, and that's the only way you're going to win the battle, then ultimately it's a bad strategy. Now you could pair him obviously with a War Mother, like you would with Ruel and Thea.
Yeah.
But then now you're bringing 2 slots in. The only good thing is you could make the War Mother super squishy, super tanky, sorry, because you're not relying on her bombs. You're relying on what's his bombs.
Yeah.
On the other way, you could spin it the other way around. The problem is, will you be able to run this guy into an arena comp where you can trust that the bombs are going to go on, stay on, and he's going to die to detonate them? That's a lot of conditions you need to match. But I think the way I approached it was, it's good that they're trying to be creative with a bomb champion rather than just sticking a bomb on a champion and going, it does bombs.
Yeah,
it's not going to
work. Absolutely.
And the good thing is, as well, they haven't, like, Soul Drinker is great for his passive. The only problem is they nerfed the passive multiplier on Soul Drinker based on his main one. No, his main one is 4.5. His passive is only 2.5. Where with Gaius, the Great, both his bombs are 5 times multipliers. So with a base, I think, of 1586, I think he's the highest base attack of all the bombers.
Yeah, his base attack is solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think his attacks in general hit hard.
Yeah, he's a godlike damage dealer as well, which, I mean, he's not in the realms of, hey, I've got a Trender in waiting, or I've got a Constantine in waiting, or I've got a Leorius who's on 0% HP. He's not that level of damage, but he is in the realms of like Fushan range. So a solid nuker.
Yeah, really
he's
hard.
A little bit below Astralon, and around about like in that kind of mid range of the A tier that I would call it. Like not as good as like Ethos Astralon, but not as terrible as some other nukers like in E3 who got buffed but didn't really get buffed.
Yeah. We had an interesting conversation about an E3 yesterday with so I mean, I think what was the actual percentage increase that we worked out?
It's about 9%. So his multiplier went from 3.3 to 3.6, which puts him still weaker than Foley.
Yeah,
is a Void legendary. And remember, Foley also, like, we're not talking about Foley's AoE with the single hit, right? We're saying just the AoE 2 parts, he's still weaker than Foley. So Foley will get that extra hit on a single target as well. So if you're running block revival, you pick a target, they die normally.
Yeah.
Unless there's some like really tanky or you haven't got any debuffs out or whatnot. Foley's AoE is still not that great to start with, but he does have that single target on top of the AoE. Iniqui doesn't. Like, I cannot understand why you would give Cleopteryx a 1 times increase on their multiplier and then take a Void legendary and only do 0.3.
It's very
surprising.
strange.
Like, I don't know what metrics they're using to balance. Like, I know their metrics are multipliers generally around about 4 times for an AoE. They don't like to exceed that in most scenarios.
Trunda.
Well, this is the thing. Technically, her AoE is only 3 times. Okay. The problem is someone in player thought nobody would ever run it without accuracy. I think they have this assumption that everyone would want to
go
stun.
for the stun, yeah.
Which means that actually her AoE is still within that range. But most people were like, hang on, if I don't stun, I get twice the amount of damage. That's a great idea. And then it got too far and they just you can't nerf it.
Yeah, what do you do?
And obviously the A2 is bugged and they will never fix that for some reason. But with an E3 change, as I said, like Cleopteryx now does more damage than an E3. And she's a double AoE. He's only a single AoE. I mean, yes, he's got block revive on every single thing he hits. Fine. But Fenax is an epic, hits harder than him on his A1. There is a rare block revive champion that hits harder than an E3. It's not really... I mean, if you're going to buff a champion that's a void legendary, you do the Yakal treatment. Like if you can't balance it because you think the passive block revive is too good, move it to the A3, make the A3 stronger, so therefore it puts more reliance on the A3, like Foley. Make him an upgraded Foley if that's what you want to do. But if you're not going to buff him, like this buff is pointless because people are going to go, still not strong enough.
Yeah.
So it's a shame, but for all you E3 fans out there, I feel for you.
You're still not going to see much use, unfortunately. But
probably not. I mean, obviously, if you've got a +4 in E3, like empowerment makes any legendary way stronger, right? So a +4 in E3 will do more damage or close to the same damage as a Trunda, just purely because of your crit damage gain, the crit rate gain, the extra attack percentage, the more stats you have available to you, because you can basically push more towards attack percentage or crit damage because you don't need that extra 10% crit. So I think if you've got a +4 in E3, then it's good, but it's not enough as a overall buff to say, okay, well, we've made an E3 relevant now. You haven't. You've just made him slightly more powerful.
Yeah, he's slightly less disappointing. To wasted your void mercy on. I think that's the main
at least he's
thing.
not Jin Wong, right?
That's there is that.
If anyone pulls him, at least it's not a Jin Wong.
I was actually scrolling through Facebook this morning at the gym on the treadmill while I was waiting to do my session, and I scrolled through a Facebook post where somebody had actually copied and pasted our description from the Hellhades website of Jin Wong.
I think I wrote that one.
Yeah, and it started this hilarious conversation of people agreeing, which is nice for a change. That people on Facebook actually agree with what we said, but it was hilarious reading through the comments on that. They were very much like, HH team being as savage as ever. I
gotta say, Jin Wong is probably worse.
Let me get it up because it did make me laugh.
Probably worse than the worst epic in the game. Close.
Let's have a look. So let me read the description here for you. So what we've written for poor old Jin Wong is so this champion isn't only the worst void legendary in all of Teleria, he is probably the worst legendary of all affinities. He's HP based, therefore his damage output is really low. His mechanics revolve around decrease accuracy and decrease critical damage, both of which are relatively low priority debuffs outside of specific encounters. Blah, 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 go into that. And then compared to Dark Kale, who extends all debuffs and all enemies by 1 turn, it's fairly embarrassing for a void legendary. And then,
my bad. I think that's a bit harsh here.
Yeah, and then the last line is, already this champion needs a rework. If you pull him straight, put him straight in your vault and try not to be depressed by the void shard mercy. It's just like, that is brutal, but...
I mean, most of my takes are pretty on point. I think the only one I probably got a bit harsh, that I was probably a bit harsh on, was to Hanorach, where I think I called her a golden Doom Priest.
Yeah, okay.
But obviously with Hydra coming out, she's found some use and she does hit hard. It's just, in my opinion, she didn't do enough to warrant the Void tag. She's basically an upgraded Doom Priest that did a little bit more. So maybe it was a bit harsh on that one. But yeah, I mean, Jinglong is like, this is the thing. Void legendaries are so hard to get because you don't have the Sacred Void in that sense. So the odds of you getting legendaries...
We shouldn't be watering down that pool.
I'm not... So
already...
there's difference. For me, I don't mind them adding Void legendaries. I don't mind them watering it down.
They should be Void legendaries. That's the point.
They should be the strongest. Have a purpose.
Yeah.
Like when you look at Darkhail, you go and look at the champion design and you think, right, okay, so he puts poisons on his A3. Okay, so he's a poisoner. Right, okay. Well, what else do you want with a poisoner? Well, he extends the poisons on his A2. Perfect. Okay. And the A1 explodes the poisons. Okay, that's really good. And then you throw a passive on the back, which means that anyone under poison has minus 15% crit rate, which means they can't crit. And then you put decreased attack, right? So everything in his kit makes sense. And you look at it and go, okay, well, he's a poisoner, probably aimed at more killable scenarios where you're not in an unkillable state, where you're worried about damage because he's got decreased attack. But it all makes sense. And then you look at his kit and you go, well, his passive kind of makes sense, but it's got a cooldown, so it's useless. And then he doesn't extend all the debuffs on the target. It's random. As soon as you see random, you go, well, I can't rely on it, so we'll forget that.
Yeah.
Then he's doing decreased accuracy, and I'm like, well, I can use Sylar for decreased accuracy, or I can use Sachi for decreased accuracy. They're both epics. They both do it on an AoE basis. I can use Geomancer for decreased accuracy. That's an A1 AoE.
Yeah.
So that debuff alone, you go, oh, well, it's not like debuff spread where it's rare and you think, okay, well, that's pretty good, right? Like Thalesia, for example, she's one of the only ones that does debuff spread on an A1. This guy is bringing debuffs on A2s that are available on epics on an A1 on a regular and reliable basis.
Yeah.
He doesn't even extend as good as Thalesia and Darkhail. Both were available for free, technically, because Thalesia was in the Fusion. Darkhail is available in the Doom Towers, so as long as you do it, you get it for free.
Yep.
Like, you design a champion. Okay, it doesn't have to be the best champion in the game, or even it doesn't have to be better than, say, a Duchess, but it needs to at least have a reason for existing, even if it's for one area of the game.
Yeah.
Let's face it, with the Crowned, when you really boil it down, it's probably the best place is in arena defense. You can solo, it's quite slow. It's not as good as Bad L. And then when you look at someone like Jintoro is a great example of a champion that has a specific example and a specific purpose, but you don't really use him anywhere else. Yes, he can kill on an A1 extra turn, but nobody really uses Jintoro except for Clan Boss. But in Clan Boss, he is Draco level. He is God tier because he does every of that A3, right? So I don't mind them diluting the Void legendary pool, so long as the champion that they're putting in that pool has a purpose. And if it doesn't have a purpose, you better just not make it at all. And that goes from all affinities, all rarities. Don't just chuck rares in for the sake of throwing rares in. Give them a purpose. And if you've got a bunch of champions that don't have a purpose, repurpose them. We're still crying out for Hex champions, Bomb champions, Freeze champions.
That's true.
Block buff champions. You've made block buffs a requirement for Hydra, and we're still sticking there with going, okay, well, I got Umbral, I've got Ugo, and I've got this new Pintroy guy, which is a legendary. Outside of those, who am I using for block buffs? Norog is a legendary. I'm literally already struggling for ideas after 4 for block buffs options. Well, I've got 600 champions. Rework some of the older ones that are useless.
Yeah.
You've done it with your Carl. It's not too difficult to do. Even if the entire patch is just 10 champions you pick and rework into modes and models or systems that you need to expand upon, I think most players will go, do you know what? Great patch. And what we got now, which is like, okay, well, you probably put development time into a Forge Pass. Would people want the Forge Pass, or do people want reworked champions? It's an interesting debate, that one.
Yeah, but I think for a team the size of Polarium, we should be getting both. I don't think it should be limited to one or the other, and I think that kind of segues on to the topic that we're going to be discussing next, which is the Forge Pass.
The Forge Pass. We're not going to call it the Battle Pass because it's not.
It's
comparable.
Not. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we've got within the community, is that everybody was expecting Battle Pass Season 2.
Well, they
And
almost had it built if you think about it. Like
yeah,
we were looking in the artwork yesterday, and we were finding splash arts.
I mean,
and
it's literally
champions.
called Battle Pass
Yeah.
in the artwork and stuff. So I
Well,
do
we saw the
understand
season
that
2,
mentality.
didn't we?
Yeah,
Most of the champions that were prepared for season 2 came out in the first round of Doom Tower champions. So they clearly had like not just ideas, but like already developed works for Battle Pass season 2 that never happened.
it was pretty much implemented. Yeah, it was good and ready to go. But I feel like this is something which is going to be rolling each month. Is what I get the impression of.
And or every other. I don't think it might be as consistent.
I'm just wondering whether it could be, and again, shoot me down if I'm wrong here, but what we could end up with is something along the lines of 1 month you have a Forge Pass, next month you have like a Summon Pass, next month you have, I don't know, like an Arena Pass or something like that, and then it goes back to the Forge Pass.
I think one thing we gotta note, like right out of the bat, you can only get this new artifact set from this pass.
Yeah.
There's no other places where you can get this. What are they calling them? Instinct stones? Or
yeah.
So if they never bring it back, that represents a problem.
Yeah.
Like, what about how do I get this set? There's no
artifact. It will definitely come back.
So they have to have some. Obviously, they've already said as well. We will. What have they said? I think they said something like, "We will bring it back if people like it," kind of thing.
Yeah.
So based on the current feedback, I think they've got a lot of work to do. But the good thing is, the system that they've got is good. The problem might be that they need to adjust the rewards and adjust the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to call this a battle pass because it's not a battle pass from last 2 years ago. And I think a lot of the negativity that we're going to see in the next couple of days is going to be driven from like that recency bias of, well, in the first battle pass, I paid the same price and I got champions and shards and I got energy and I got this and I got that. And I'm like, you can't frame it. The reason why it never came back was
the battle pass was about 30% more expensive than this one.
Was it $24.99?
Yeah,
I can't remember. I started playing around the time of the first battle pass.
So did I. And the reason that I never actually did the battle pass was, unfortunately, I only just started playing the game. And I joined at a point where I was convinced that I wouldn't be able to finish the battle pass. So although it looked like it was worth doing, I wasn't going to be able to pick up.
I bought the 25 levels. That's when I became that caused me to start buying.
That was the downward spiral.
That was the downward spiral.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to invest that sort of money in a game at that point. Little did I know.
I know. That's the thing. Once you start spending, it becomes a bit of a
2 years down the line, and
here we are.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first point I would say. Is like, you can't frame this against the original battle pass, because if you do, it's always going to look bad.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how you spin it, it's always going to look worse because you've got so much out of that. Like, I think I found an article that I sent to Hellhades for his, like, he's probably going to do a video if he hasn't already on it. And I was like saying, it's a good way to compare. And in there, you could see you were getting multiple sets of 6-star divine. You got 3 or 4 champions, you got avatars, you got 1,000 gems, you got energy, you got the
because we had Frozen Banshee, there was Stag Knight, obviously the Whirlum for the completing it. Is Grave Chill, I think, was in it as well.
Let me just pull it up now. Actually, we can have a look and see what was in there, because it's on Raid Codex's website. So I think a big thing is you could get quite a lot for being a free person.
Yeah.
So from the free rewards, you were getting like 300 gems, 20 refills for energy. You got 4 ancient shards, 1 void shard, legendary book, an epic book. You got Grave Chill and Earth Sign for free.
Mm-hmm.
The bears. Chickens.
The bears, wasn't it?
And then, like, if we look at the artifacts, you got, what was it, like 1, 2, 3 sets of 5-star artifact sets. So you got 1 of each type, and that was in offense, life, and speed. Okay, they were not so good, but the speed set was good. Then you got 1, 2, 3 6-star epic, and then 3 legendary, all in offense, life, and speed. So, you think the volume of artifacts that you were getting, pretty strong.
Yeah.
And then if you bought the pass, you then got Stag Knight, which at the time was like a top tier epic. You got Whirlum at the time, which is not very good at all, but he's actually all right.
Yeah.
for Bommel. Frozen Banshee, best poisoner in the game at the time. Ursine Ice Crusher. The bears weren't too good, but Black Bear was really good for Faction Wars. So
he was,
actually wasn't terrible.
He was actually probably the reason that I was able to complete Faction Wars, to be honest.
But then when you look at the other rewards, like for Pioneer, you got 40 energy refills, you got 1,000 gems, you got 5 ancient shards, 2 legendary books, 2 void shards, 2 epic books. You got 5-star chickens. You've got 3 6-star glyphs, and we're going to talk about glyphs because I have a mega rant about glyphs coming up. So yeah, so I think when we look at those first one, why we can't compare it is you got so much in that pass, and it's probably the reason why it never came back, because it gave you too much.
Yeah,
basically. Now, do I think the current Forge Pass, which is what we're going to assess, has the right balance? No, I think they've gone too far down. I actually don't think if you're a free-to-play player that you even give a damn about the Forge Pass based on what is in here. Sure. Free player.
So you collect the free rewards if you get them, but don't focus on it.
It's just like, what do you get in? So if I'm looking at this now, and I've got it on my screen, you get 50 of the legendary fragment things. You can't, and so that basically you can forge 5, or is it 10, like 10 of the legendary new set on as if you're free. You get a 5-star Chaos Ore, or 2 of them. Then you get a bunch of charms, so the majority of the pass is framed around Forge Pass, as we know. The charms, the Magisteel is nice to have, but I'm not sitting here going, wow, I really need those 20 crit damage charms. I've got like 200 of them. I really don't use them that often. The rank and rarity charms are nice to have because I tend to use them on the Doom Tower materials. I'll always use them on the Doom Tower materials. But I don't think we need to sit here and rate them anyway. So what we're really looking at when we look at this is, what if I'm free, if I'm early and mid game and I'm free, what is this giving me that I could use? The Magisteel is probably nice to make some perception gear. Some 4-star glyphs is nice, but it's not exactly crazy because it's 4-star, you want higher speed glyphs. And then you're looking at it, you're going, right, well, there's no energy, which is the main thing I need in early to mid game. There's no gems, there's no shards, there's nothing in here that's going to help me progress. There's no champions, there's no gear. There's nothing in that free pass that I would say warrants a level of interest. The important thing that we should know, because I think there's misinformation going around everywhere, you don't have to buy the pass to finish the pass. You can complete it free. There's a bit of a weird thing at the start of level 1, where because you start at level 1, there's 50 levels. The first level takes double the amount of XP, but every level is 10 XP. You get 20 a day, so you need 25 days, which means you can't skip 2 to 3 days as a free player for your daily challenges. But you can't afford to skip more than that, otherwise you won't be able to complete it to get to your end rewards. Now, like if you're a free-to-play player and you're looking at that, you can't be that excited about it.
No,
the daily challenges they're interesting, but they're not. You're going to do them in like 5 seconds, right? And then you're just going to move on.
But it's free stuff.
It is free stuff, right? And I think probably the amount of Magisteel you get is probably nice for an early to mid game, because Magisteel obviously requires arena farming. Arena is a big issue right now. Perception gear is probably one of the best things you can create in the early to mid game and towards late game in terms of accuracy. It's really, really strong gear. It's probably the best thing that ever came out of Forge. We don't really care so much about resilience. That's a nice filler set, but generally perception is what people want. It's accuracy, it's speed, it's great. Now for the actual Elite Pass, I don't think the Elite Pass is that bad. A lot of people are savage in it right now and saying it's terrible, it's a money grab, and it's like it's not that bad. I think you gave the best example, didn't you? Of like, it feels like a mini mix pack.
Yeah, it's the same price as a mini mix pack. So
absolutely. And most people would tell you the mini mix pack is good, but it's not amazing. So you don't need to buy. You should, like, it gives you a lot of stuff you don't need most of the time, which is why people don't rate it so much. But when they double it up, then it's crazy good.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be a similar case. For the price of $20 in a month, when you think of how much Plarium charge for things, you get a lot for $20. And it's stuff you might use, right? So if, like me, you rate Chaos Ore, it's really good, in my opinion. You're getting 6-star Chaos Ore. I think you get 3 legendary. That's pretty good going for $20. Okay, that's not bad. Like if you think how much up until the clan shop came out and the recent editions where they started putting them more, it was still quite difficult to get a hold of Chaos Ore. And yes, there is an RNG aspect to it, and I know a lot of people don't rate Chaos Ore that highly. But I personally believe, like, based on me running 1,000 dragon runs and keeping 30 pieces, if one of those triple rolls or quadruple roll speed piece and I reforge it and I get a quad or triple speed, that Chaos Ore was worth $200 easily in terms of the amount of energy that I could potentially be spending to try and get that piece. So it is valuable. You also get a substantial amount of the new set legendary stuff. Okay, is the set good?
We don't overly rate it, do we? But it's still,
it's just not very optimal.
Yeah.
What they should do, if Playroom is listening, the
problem is it's a 4 set, right?
If Playroom is listening, this is how you make this set go from a B tier to probably A to S tier. You make it a 2 set piece and you drop it down to 5% ignore defense. And you give non-attack based damage dealers an alternative to Cruel. So I can run Savage, Instinct. Someone like Soulless, Magna, anyone of that nature, if they can get like 12% speed, most of those people are probably doing offsets, or they're doing like a mythical from Hydra, or they might be doing 2-piece or a variable set. This would be perfect because it gives them 5% ignore defense. Nice. It fills that kind of gap. And it's also a little bit of speed, which is really important in an arena setting. You do that, top end players will go, actually, that piece is really good. In its current form, most end game players, and I would say most late game players, are going to go, well, I lose 12% speed for the 4 if I just had 2 speed, or I lose 10% ignore defense if I drop my Savage. Neither of which I want to do. Either I want more speed or I want more ignore defense. I never want a mix of both. So I'm not really sure. I mean, if the pieces roll really good, then of course you keep them, right? They're offset pieces. So it's not bad having forge materials. But that's, if Playroom is listening and you want to make this set really good, that's how I would do it. And it wouldn't be overpowered because you would be balancing it against Cruel, and you would be given basically an upgraded speed set, right? That's kind of like what you want to do.
Absolutely. And I guess based on the fact of how limited and how hard it is to effectively get this, because it's only available from the Forge Pass, it should be a top tier set. It shouldn't be, just a nice off piece, which is kind of where it is at the moment.
190 5 to 6 star pieces.
Yep.
From the Elite Pass rewards. So that's 190 attempts in the Forge.
On top of the 6 or the full set of 6 star that you get.
On top, yeah. Which means you're probably looking at somewhere in the region of 14 to 16 6-star legendary instinct pieces from an entire month's worth of resources. So it's probably the least accessible set in the game. And it's probably one that most players will not go out of their way to get. No. So you've got that hurdle to start with.
That being said, though, just looking through what you actually need to do to achieve the pass, it's not hard. They're not
good challenges,
difficult things to do per day. It just adds, I guess, something else to do in the day.
The heal 100 times in campaigns was a bit of a...
Yeah, I haven't done that one yet, but it is...
Tip for anyone who wants to do it, get yourself a healer like Vrask or Wither or something like that. Put yourself in with a really low damage team and just go into Nightmare and just run it through in 116 energy burst. I think I did Duchess in Immortal, Vrask. I think I did Deacon, and I think I did another healer. I can't remember. And it was just really low damage, but it couldn't die. That easily did the 100 times in 116 energy burst.
Yeah, I was gonna chuck Wither in and just see what happens.
An important tip: you have to win the campaign battle for it to apply.
Yeah,
which I don't know why they've done that, but they have.
So you need to be able to actually kill the waves at the end.
Yes, but again, like I think. So the big thing I want to rant about, this is like a 2 minute. Why can't we have rank 6 glyphs? Like why?
In the Forge Pass.
In the Elite Pass, it's rank 5.
Yeah, it's rank 5. I did see that, which is a shame.
It's so hard right now to not only get rank 6 speed glyphs, but then for them to roll high. What's the harm in chucking in 3, maybe 4 rank 6?
So we get 5 rank
5
speed ones,
which are not bad. It's not
that's
terrible.
Good. That's good. But you are right. But it's something we paid for.
Pass.
It should be an elite reward.
Like maybe instead of this like 20 accuracy fragments that I get at level 48, you throw in 1 6-star speed glyph of 1 6-star glyph of every type.
Yeah.
I don't want loads of it, but please, for the love of all that is real, understand that glyphs are the most valuable resource for late to end game players beyond pure artifacts. Like it is what makes the difference between someone who can beat the speed race or not, or get to a certain breakpoint or not, or find or push their builds. Like glyphs are the most valuable resource, and they're so hard to get. I think I went 3 weeks before my last my last 6-star speed glyph. And then I know,
and then it probably low rolled.
It +3s, right? I got lucky. It +8'd. I was like shocked. I now have the psychology when I use a glyph that I should not expect it to roll high, and then it will.
Yeah.
If I expect it to roll high, it never will. But yeah, it bothers me that the way that they're valuing things in this is just a bit strange. So we get a lot of charms, which are low value. I don't mind that they're there because it's a forge pass. But at least give me the raw fundamentals of give me 6-star glyphs. They are the end game content. That is like the higher pass. Throw in a couple of 5-star glyphs for free people. Make the free pass a little bit more desirable. Maybe throw in some of the, like, I actually think you should be giving either 6-star epic or 5-star legendary to the free pass at the end at level 50. 100%.
Yeah.
If I buy it, I get the best. If I don't buy it, I still get something. It's not hard. Maybe they throw in like 20% of the XP boost for the free, but they start it later in the pass.
Yeah, maybe like a level 10 or something like that. Yeah. No, I do completely see your point
empty.
There.
And I'm comparing this as well to, I've been playing, I was playing a bit of Ace. I've stopped playing it now because it's got a bit boring. And they have a regular pass that they do, and they include a champion. So basically they pick a legendary every month. They have a champion. And in their pass, they don't have the same level of daily and weekly challenges per se. They have basically a pass challenge, and it will be like, I don't know, upgrade 2 champions to 16 is a one time for the duration of the pass. And that gives you pass XP, but their XP is generated by how much you play, how many arena battles you do, how much energy you use. And in their reward, they basically have things like, they'll have food tokens, which give you energy. So for the free person, they get 2. For the paid person, they get 6. And they'll do that throughout it. You'll get things like charms to upgrade your gear. This is kind of like in there. That kind of makes sense. You might get some things like arena refills. You might get things. And then at level 30, you get a champion. So generally, their pass is only $8.99. It's like $10. Mm-hmm. And you're getting a lot more that you can use to play the game. I think the problem with the Forge Pass is...
There's nothing to actually power you through the Forge Pass, because in addition to having to buy that, you're going to have to also spend resources to actually achieve those rewards.
It's more, none of the rewards make you play the game.
No. Whereas only the challenges do.
The challenges, you could probably, like, I've almost done all my weekly in day one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bar the delays for getting sparring pick, because I've got a bunch of level 6s in there at the moment, rank 6s.
Yep.
I will have completed the Forge Pass week 1 in day 1. Yeah. Now, if I remember back to the last Battle Pass we had, the challenges you had were a bit more tricky. You might have things like you had to place like 100 like heal reduction in arena, which is a lot more tricky back then. So I don't necessarily think that we should have harder challenges, but if I'm completing a weekly challenge in day 1,
it's not giving you the incentive to keep coming back day after day and playing.
And it's then the reward
helps that we've got a fusion on at the same time, because
absolutely the XP boost is good and the silver boost is good because it's not limited to campaign. It is limited to all battles.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another bugbear that I have. If we can have a Forge Pass that gives me 10% XP and 10% silver in all battles, why is my clan upgrade giving me only 8% extra campaign silver?
Yeah.
Why is it not just giving me 8% extra silver? Just generally. Is it that much of a burden to give me 8% silver in all battles? So I think I
just wait for the spider tournament. It's fine.
Oh, well, that's another rant that I could have. Who the hell in Plarium thought it was a good idea to put Spider on Friday and then end the Spider tournament on Monday, and then Tuesday CVC starts, and now we've got Dragon, which is the worst dungeon to farm for CVC points.
Yeah.
And we'll probably have a maintenance during CVC because, logic.
Oh, almost certainly. But we will talk about that next week because the podcast will be during CVC next week. So
it will.
I'm sure that will be the gripe of the podcast at that point. But I think something to take away from this is the Fusion champion is looking excellent. So if you still haven't started, you still do have time. There's only one event or a couple of events that have been on.
Today's the first busy day, I think.
Yeah,
you've got training, dungeon divers.
And I do recommend that if you do have the resources, that you do grab this champion because he seems really good.
Even if you have no plans to push arena, he's still worth getting in case they add another Hydra head or they add some content.
That's the big thing, isn't it?
He is the best bomb outside of Astrolith, War Mother, and Lord Shazar. He's no one else is closer to them other than this guy, so he's worth
I feel like he's going to be a champion that people are going to regret not getting if they don't get him. And in terms of the Forge Pass, I think just don't compare it to the Battle Pass. Look at it at what it is. If you can afford it, then buy it. But if not, then just accept the fact that you'll be getting a few free rewards for doing some free challenges and just take it as that. I think don't overthink it, and we'll see whether this is something which happens month after month. This is obviously a trial, reintroduced in the Battle Pass, and the fact is we've got something, and even if you don't buy it, you're still getting some stuff for free.
In the long run, look at it like skins. You don't have to buy it. What I'm saying is you don't have to buy it. And to be fair, this Forge Pass doesn't give anyone a competitive advantage other than a bit of XP in campaign for a training tournament. So
do you know what they should have done? Those Cold Heart skins should have been Battle Pass rewards.
Absolutely. There you go. See, you put the epic, you can keep the gold one for paid. You put the epic one in the Elite Pass, and then that means people have an incentive to buy the Elite.
Why didn't they do that? I didn't even think about that because that's something we didn't even talk about, the Cold Heart skins, and they look awesome.
They look awesome.
They make Cold Heart look like the legendary she really is.
Or stick the epic as the free pass.
Yeah.
Give a bit of, free will. Okay, you've put some dev time into making skins, but let's face it, once the art department can probably make that in a week or two. It's not like you having to redesign the entire champion with all the mechanics.
No, it's just a reskin, isn't it?
So. It's just a skin. And then put the legendary one in the Elite Pass, so you get some money back from it. Like you've got to give something more.
We should work for Polarium. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no. What I would say though is for anyone thinking, listening, going, "Oh, it doesn't look good." If you want the fun of I enjoy the challenges and trying to complete them. That's why I've got the pass. I bought the pass because it's $20. It gives me some extra challenges, and to be honest, I value Chaos All very highly. So I'm going to get that for the 3 Chaos, or it's probably worth the £20 that is there.
Yeah.
If you don't want to buy it, that's fine. And I think give Plarium the opportunities to balance out the thing. They probably looked at the first Battle Pass and went, it's a bit too much we gave them there. That's probably not going to be good. They've probably dropped it down for this one, and they may have gone too far, and they might adjust it. I think, as you say, skins as a reward makes sense. Maybe that was part of the plan. They didn't have time because of the war, and it kind of forced them into
because there was avatars in the original one as well, wasn't
there? Were avatars, and they don't really do avatars anymore for some reason. Maybe it's just effort. Maybe they just see it as low income value effort for dev time. But I think if they could fix the artifact set, then people would be looking at this differently because they would be thinking it's a really good set. But because the set isn't very good, there's no champions, there's no energy, there's no gems, there's no shards, there's no books. The things that people are perceptively looking for as rewards, I feel like people might be devaluing the pass.
Yeah.
So I think
if Polarium's listening, make the set a 2 set and drop the percentages down slightly, and put the Cold Heart skins in the Battle Pass.
And then you've got a really pretty good thing, yeah.
2 changes, guys.
Oh, and also that whole server booster event should be on if you buy the Elite Pass.
Absolutely.
Full stop. Give me minus 50% reduction on my gear swapping, or even, 50% off upgrades.
Ooh, saucy.
For the duration of the Forge Pass. People will buy that. If people can get 50% silver reduction for 20 quid, I guarantee you it'd be flying off the shelves because it's the biggest problem for players. They spend so much of their silver upgrading, swapping gear, doing stuff. If they can have that, okay, should they have it as like a free server event? Yeah, I'm not saying you have to buy these bonuses. I'm just saying, how can you add value without actually costing you money? Because that's the thing that a lot of people realize is if they throw champions in this pass, that potentially costs them money because you're not buying the shards that you would need to get the champions, right? I mean, that's potentially a whale thought, or people might say that's not how you should look at the whole thing, but that's how they would look at it. Is if I make a champion, I'm expecting a certain level of shard income against that champion.
Yeah.
And if I'm now giving that champion away for free, then that champion was developed for a loss, essentially. So I can understand why they haven't thrown champions in it, but you've got to make it a little bit more juicier than a couple of forge charms, some an average set, and 5-star glyphs with a bit of chaos. Or like, that's the problem. It doesn't look exciting.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think people are going to go to the extreme of, well, the last battle pass said all this, and we're just going to get probably about a week of people going, the forge pass is terrible. Which I actually don't think it's that bad.
I don't think it's that bad.
I think it's okay.
So, guys, let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are on the Battle Pass and on the Fusion Champion, whether you're going to be going after him. And
that is great.
Yeah, guys, the great. And we will be back next week for a CVC special, I guess, to see the rage that's going on during that. But until the next episode, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in another video very soon.
Whoop.